Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Dial It Up, and finishing off my resource series about going with the new resources that came out this year is the Millennium Stone. This came out during the Battle of the Millennium Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament, which is still ongoing right now. I think we've just reached month 3. Yeah, so this is actually a resource that is still being built on, as it is one of the organized play resources where every month you get a piece of the resource until the final, and then you have it all together. But I am going to explain how it works, since you don't really need all the relics to explain how the resource itself works. So starting off, force construction. 7 points plus 4 points per Millennium item attached. The Millennium Stone begins the game with at least 1 and up to 7 distinct Millennium items attached. The final click number of this dial is equal to 3 times the number of Millennium items attached to it at the beginning of the game. So the base itself costs 7 points. Each relic that you attach to it is another 4 points. So that's going to bring it up to minimum 11 points, maximum 35 points when you get all of the relics put in there. It is another one of those where it says distinct relics. There's no fudging it on these ones. They actually have very distinct slots that they fit into, kind of like the Book of the Skull, where all the hammers had their own places to go into. There's no way to put more than one of these relics on there, as they fit in to create the Pharaoh God. I'm not even going to pretend to know what this is. I know nothing about Yu-Gi-Oh! You guys know that by now. And then, so based on how many relics you actually have attached during force construction is how big the dial is going to be. And the dial is going to be 3 times the amount of relics. So with just one relic on, it's a dial of 3 clicks. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the most that this dial is going to be stops at 21. Yeah, and you'll even see it has special power on click 21, and then after that, click 22 is KOs. So, equipping a character. Once per turn, give a friendly character not in its starting area a power action to replace a Millennium item on their card. If they do, return any Millennium items already on their card to the Millennium Stone, unless that dial is on click 10 or higher. Friendly characters with Millennium items on their cards may use the abilities of those as relics. So you're only going to be assigning 1 relic per turn, and they only have to be outside their starting area. It's not like other ones that you have to pick up the relics where there usually have to be at least 5 out. Looking at the Rock of Eternity or the Book of the Skulls, where they really want to push you out of your starting area to start assigning relics. This one, as long as you're not in your starting area, you can assign a relic to them just by giving them a power action. On top of that, if they already had one assigned, you kind of just swap, bring the old one back to the Millennium Stone, and then give them the powers of the new relic that's assigned, unless the dial is on click 10 or higher. Now, the only way to get to click 10 or higher is you have to have at least 4 relics on there. So the small guys, you're not going to be doubling up until you have basically a lot of relics already on your stone to begin with, and then you'll start doubling up on your guys. And then also just that clause in there that, yes, once you have the relic assigned, they are being used as relics, and you can use the powers that each one of those relics grants. Sacrifice to open the portal. At the end of any turn in which a friendly character took damage from an opponent, roll a d6 and subtract 1. Turn the dial that many times clockwise. When you reach the final click number, stop turning the dial. If you reach the final click number in fewer clicks than the results of the roll, deal 1 unavoidable damage to all friendly characters with Millennium item on their card. Once you have reached the final click number, stop turning the dial. Alright, so let's break that down. At the end of any turn that you take, a friendly character takes damage from an opponent. Now this is not from an attack, so poison, incapacitate, sorry, that's going to be from an attack. But yeah, poison, any special power that just deals out damage. As long as a friendly character has been damaged at the end of the turn, you're going to roll a d6. And then subtract 1, that's how much damage that's how many times you're going to be turning the dial. Now, as previously stated, your end click is based on how many relics you have. So pretty much if you only have 1 relic on there, you're going to be hitting your end of the dial pretty soon into the game. As soon as you take damage, you're going to be turning that dial. And then if you happen to roll over, where if you're only a few clicks from the end of the dial, based on how many relics you have, and you have to roll past that or click past that, you're going to be dealing 1 unavoidable damage, which means this is just going to happen. There's no way getting around that damage. 1 unavoidable damage to every friendly character that has a Millennium item assigned to them. So anything that's come from the resource that's assigned to your character, all of those characters are going to take 1 unavoidable damage if you roll over. It's very easy to roll over in this case. But that only ever happens once. So once you hit that final click, you're done clicking the dial and you're just going to sit on that click for the rest of the game. So you don't have to worry about constantly hurting your characters once you've hit that final click. And the dial. During the beginning of your turn, choose a friendly character with a Millennium item on its card. If a 1 or 2 or 3 is currently shown on the dial, increase the chosen character's combat value of that type by the amount shown. So this works a lot like the empowerment from the Book of the Skulls, where you choose 1 character on your team that has a Millennium item attached to them, and then they get bonuses based on what's showing on the dial. So like click 1 is showing a 1. And it's showing a 1 in the movement slot. So you're going to get +1 to your movement. And then as it turns around, the numbers move, like Clix 7 has +1 to movement and +1 to attack. So you're going to get a modification to that character that you've chosen in the slot that it shows up on the actual dial of the resource. Then it also has a special power, it's actually a trait, Awaken the Spirits. At the end of your turn, you may place a bystander token from the Summoned Souls table into your starting area, but only if the total point value of these friendly bystander tokens on the map is equal or less than the point value listed in the damage slot on this dial. This power has actually caused one of the most controversies that I've seen a resource cause since not even taking into account the power batteries and working as a resource and as a character, but the most controversy that I've seen where the player base is pretty much divided between what they feel that this power should do and what it has actually ruled to do. So I'll let you guys know what it has been ruled to do based on the strict wording of what's in the power. And that is that at the end of your turn, you can bring in a bystander token. Now, these resources are actually going to come with a collection of bystander tokens valued at 5 points, 10 points, 15 points, 25 points, and 50 points. And when you're clicking the dial, there's actually going to be a small number in the damage slot. Like click 1 has a tiny 5. Now, it's actually smaller than you would normally see a combat value number be in that slot, so it's a little bit to differentiate. It's about the same size font wise as the click number would actually be the little red numbers that are usually in that side. So click 1, they're showing a small 5. So the way this works is that as long as the bystanders that you have on the board are equal to or less, you can bring 1 more out. So if you have none on the board, you can bring out any summoned soul that you want. If you have 1 that's less than that 5 or equal to that 5, so the 5 point is the lowest one you've got, even if you have brought a 5-point summoned soul onto the board, the 5.1 would be the restless soul. So even if you have a restless soul on the board, that is still equal to or less than the number that's showing. So then at that point, you can bring out any one of those. You can bring out the 10 point, the 15 point, the 25 point, the 50 point bystander, which is really ridiculous when you actually get to see the stats that are on the Vengeful Spirit. which is the 50.1. Why the controversy is coming is because a lot of the times when we've seen powers like this show up, it takes into account the bystander that's being brought onto the map, not what's on the map currently. So because it only checks what's currently on the map, there's no limit as to which spirit you're going to be popping down, which makes this a very, very powerful resource in the sense that pretty much turn 1, turn 2, you've got this 50-point bystander that you're just constantly popping out. As long as, you know, if he dies, you're just going to pop him out again. Now, that being said, anytime these summoned souls do get KO'd, they're going to get scored because they are still characters that have been KO'd and they have point values. So you are kind of handing your opponent this 50 points, but that's a very, very strong 50 points in your favor and to deal with your opponent, and your opponent has to deal with these guys as well as the rest of your force. And the final thing on this is the A. Usually we don't see white powers lettered. This is the A, and I believe the only time you see this show up is actually on Click 20, so this is only available when you have a fully powered Millennium Stone. And that is Zork, Give Me Strength. At the beginning of your turn, choose a friendly character with Millennium item on their card. That character modifies its combat values by +2, deals penetrating damage, and can use Impervious, Outwit, and Probability Control. So there's a whole bunch of bonuses if you end up getting to the end of the dial. Now, I haven't played it fully powered up yet because we haven't gotten to the end of the OP tournament set yet. So I'm not sure how quickly you'll get to that with rolling that d6 and minusing 1, but I'm sure with a couple of good rolls of 5s and 6s, it won't take you too long to get to Click 20, and then at that point, you're gonna be choosing a friendly character to get a whole bunch of buffs for that turn. So that was the Millennium Stone. This is the exclusive Yu-Gi-Oh! Resource. This is not considered Modern Age for any of WizKid's official tournaments. You may be at a venue that will house rule it to allow this sort of things, like our venue likes to include anything that you can get from OP kits, but it is exclusively featured in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Organized Play 6-month Battle of the Millennium storyline event. So that is the best way to pick it up from your venue if you guys have already gone into it. Like I said, we're into month 3 now. If not, talk to your judges. Maybe they might have some laying around. If you have any questions, comments, anything you feel I didn't go over with this resource, just comment down below, and we'll see you guys next time for another episode of Dial It Up.
Married with Clix is brought to you by Majestic's Heroclix sales down in Costa Mesa, California. Right now, they're in the middle of storefront change. In the meantime, don't forget to check out their eBay store. If you check the link down below, they always have great Heroclix stuff at fantastic prices, and they'll ship just about anywhere.